What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we are taking a look ahead towards Season 21 and Season 22 and looking at some potential reworks that several exotics might be seeing in the near future. This includes changes to some of the community's favorite exotic weapons and armor. These new details have been made available thanks to the efforts of Xeno Marvel and others over at Destiny Leaks Discord. As always with leaked details, I advise to take it with a grain of salt. But with that being said, most of these changes seem pretty sensible and feasible. So let's dive in and see what changes Guardians might be seeing to some of these fan favorite exotics. First, let's discuss exotic weapon changes. The Salvation's Grip is on the list, a heavy stasis grenade launcher that fires stasis crystals. Holding in the trigger will cause these projectiles to be larger. This is getting its functionality completely changed in Season 21. After the reworks have been made, the Salvation's Grip will fire a normal grenade from uncharged firing, which can shatter stasis crystals. But when holding in the trigger, up to 6 stasis crystals will be charged and fired. This could definitely make the Salvation's Grip more viable in PvE, as it currently doesn't really provide much more than helping you get out of the map. The Eyes of Tomorrow will be seeing some changes. Defeating 4 targets with 1 volley will refund 1 round to the magazine. I'm not sure if this would be enough to really bring the Eyes of Tomorrow up to par with other exotic rocket launchers, but this exotic definitely needs some upgrades after all the nerfs that it saw after first being released. The Graviton Lance Pulse Rifle will be getting a faster rate of fire to bring it closer in line with the Revision 0. The Cosmology Explosions created by Graviton Lance will detonate quicker, and the difference in damage between the first bullet and the second bullet will be reduced. I'm not sure if this is meant to be a nerf to the damage of Graviton, or if it's just to provide better balance in the damage between each burst. So honestly, this one scares me just slightly. Tommy's Matchbook Auto Rifle will be getting some much needed love with an update to its catalyst. While this weapon is overheated, sustained fire will scorch targets. Every 5 shots will apply 14 stacks of scorch. This would be a huge update for this weapon, one of my personal favorite exotics, both aesthetically and performance-wise, but over the last few seasons, it has definitely fallen off the radar, so this would be a significant upgrade to bring this weapon back into the light. The Worldline Zero looks to get its own changes. This exotic sword has definitely fallen behind and could really benefit from some upgrades, but I'm not sure if these upgrades are what it needs. These changes are targeted to Worldline's intrinsic trait called Tesseract. When activating Tesseract, a surge of electricity damages nearby enemies as you teleport. The Worldline Zero will be able to trigger the effects of Tesseract back to back, but it will also see a reduction in damage, so I feel like legendary swords are still going to be better. For now, that's the extent of the reworks that exotic weapons will be seeing, so let's switch gears and look at exotic armor. According to these leaks, we'll be seeing a fair amount of exotic armor getting reworked, most of them for Warlocks, but each class will be seeing a number of reworks. The Vesper of Radius will now emit an arc shockwave every 3 seconds while a rift is active, dealing 200 points of damage in PvE with 70 points of damage in PvP. Enemies defeated by the shockwave will explode, dealing 100 points of damage to nearby enemies. While running Vesper on a Stormcaller build, both the shockwave and the explosion will create blinding effects against your targets. The Chromatic Fire will be getting updated. Currently, kinetic precision kills create an explosion in the element of your subclass, but after these reworks, this will also apply status effects based on the element of your subclass. What I imagine this will look like is that solar subclasses will cause Scorch from the explosions, Void will cause Volatile, Arc will cause Jolting, Stasis will freeze, and Strand will unravel, making the Chromatic Fire a very interesting prospect for Warlocks in Season 21. Dawn Chorus is on the list, but based on the description, the only thing that's changing is that it will no longer provide melee energy when scorching targets, which could definitely be considered a huge nerf, as that's one of the main appeals to running Dawn Chorus, outside of the bonus scorch damage that gets applied, of course. Ophidian Aspects will see a nerf too, which is going to make many Guardians in the PvP pretty unhappy. The Ophidian Aspects will be losing the melee range extension, probably the most beneficial of all of its benefits. The Astrocyte verse will see a significant upgrade, the distance of blink will get extended, and the frequency of blinking will be more often. When blinking, Void Warlocks will leave behind a burst of void damage that suppresses enemies. I'm really hoping this does come true, because if so, I'm immediately equipping the Astrocyte verse when Season 21 launches. The Sanguine Alchemy will provide a small boost in weapon damage for weapons matching your subclass. This bonus will only be provided while standing in a rift. The Claws of Ahamkara, which currently provide 2 charged melee attacks, will start creating an orb when defeating enemies with a charged melee. The Mantle of Battle Harmony will see its damage buff adjusted, no longer providing an incremental stack of damage bonus, but instead a lump sum for the duration. It's unclear whether this is going to be a nerf or a buff, but I'm anxious to see. And now let's talk about those crayon-eaten titans. The Dune Marchers are getting nerfed, having its chain damage reduced in range from 20 meters down to 12. And while in the PvP, the damage from Dune Marchers will be reduced from 85 points down to 50. Sad times for Dune Marchers. The Point Contact Cannon Brace gets an update already, only being out for 1 season so far. These exotic gauntlets will now jolt targets, and will see a damage increase from 50 to 200 points with charged melee attacks. When amplified, the damage from the lightning strikes will also get increased by 50%, but will no longer provide an increase in its range. The Second Chance exotic gauntlets will gain a second shield throw for Void Titans. This will now weaken enemies, and whenever stunning a barrier champion with the shield throw, the energy will get fully refunded. The Stronghold will see some pretty impactful changes of its own. After blocking damage with a sword, you'll gain Restoration when damaging enemies. This could be a huge buff for Titans, as Restoration could be applied even on non-solar subclasses. The Eternal Warrior will get some updates. Arc kills will grant an escalating bonus to arc weapon damage. It's unclear how much of a bonus this will be, but after defeating an enemy with Fist of Havoc, the damage bonus would be at its highest level. The Kepri's Horn will now recharge your barricade after solar kills, and the Solar Blast from the barricade will now apply Scorch to nearby enemies. And the Path of the Burning Steps will finally see its own nerf, as it will no longer be able to stack its damage bonus with weapon surge mods. Everything else is going to stay the same though for the Path of the Burning Steps. Quite a few changes happening for Titans overall, some not so good, but I think for the most part these are some very interesting and exciting changes. And now let's talk about changes to Hunter exotics. First off, the Sealed Ahamkara Grasp. Its intrinsic trait is being augmented and will now fully reload all weapons that match your subclass. Whenever you defeat an enemy with a powered melee, you will receive an increase in movement speed and jumping height for a short duration after charged melee kills. Raiju's Harness will be seeing some interesting changes of its own, and will now create a blinding explosion whenever you deactivate your super. Once your super is deactivated, you'll receive a 15% bonus in arc weapon damage while in PvE, and 5% while in the PvP. R3's Embrace will now charge your weighted knife energy off of any rapid precision hits, not just solar. The Oathkeepers will now provide a bonus in damage to arrows the longer the arrow is drawn. This is only going to benefit you in PvE though. The Stompies will have their airborne effectiveness penalty removed, but will now only provide the bonus in speed and jumping when your dodge is fully charged. This adjustment strikes me odd, and I'm really not sure why this change in particular is being made. But nevertheless, we'll see how it ends up working out. The Radiant Dance Machines will become even more deadly in Season 21. Radiant Dance Machines allows you to perform consecutive dodges in a short period of time. After these changes, defeating enemies will extend the duration that you can continue to dodge. I can't help but think that this is going to be broken. but I guess we'll have to just wait and see. And the last exotic armor piece on the docket is the Mask of Bakris, which will see its damage bonus increased from 10% to 25% when in PvE. This damage bonus will now get extended to PvP as well, but will only be a 7% bonus in arc weapon damage after performing your dodge. Currently, this damage bonus stacks with weapon surge mods, but after these reworks, it will not. At this time, that's the extent of the changes that will be seen to exotic weapons and armor in Season 21. And the last update for Season 22 that this leak mentions is adjustments to lobby balancing. This is something Bungie spoke of quite a bit in recent months, so it'll be nice to actually see it in use. For now, that concludes all the new leaks that we've got for the upcoming months of Destiny 2 Lightfall. Like I said earlier, with these details being leaked, definitely take it all with a grain of salt. But with that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts and concerns on these exotic reworks and everything else that's changing in Season 21, Season of the Deep. So be sure to let me know in the comments below, and thank you as always for checking out today's video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.